I'm just Nick, and this is a bunch of JMI Tonebender fuzzes. Here's the clean sound we're using. Here's the Tonebender Mark 1. This is the Tonebender Mark 1.5. This is the Tonebender Mark II. This is the Tonebender Mark II Professional. And this is the Tonebender Mark III. So, this is not going to be a video about the history or construction of these beautiful boxes. There's a lot of arcane detail to be gotten into. These are apparently detail perfect or close to detail perfect replicas of the early fuzz boxes that were issued under the Tonebender name. Some of the first fuzz boxes ever constructed, used by all sorts of giants of rock and roll in the early to late 60s in particular. It's not going to be about all that because I actually don't know that much about all that. I have vague notions about it. I have vague notions about increasing amounts of gain, more transistors over here than over here, different transistors in each. And you need to keep in mind that the differences between these pedals relate mostly to their circuit design and the use of particular transistors, but also there's some variations because transistors are not all identical and behave slightly differently, have slightly different amounts of gain that they create, and slightly different responses. That was a really long way of saying that there's a lot of very arcane and detailed stuff going on here, but we're really just going to talk about what these sound like, because the Tonebenders are a wonderful, wonderful sounding family of fuzzes, and they're not only wonderful in terms of the tones and the types of clipping they produce, they're also wonderful in the way that they react dynamically to your playing. If I had to pick one type of fuzz, one family of fuzz that I like more than any other, it would be the Tonebenders. The Tonebender Mark I is one of the first fuzz devices ever produced, and JMI has apparently produced pretty much of a replica here. It has a little bit of background noise and hiss, but it has an extremely crisp and open dynamic quality to it that's really expressive. It changes dramatically with your picking attack. Right here we're at about halfway on the gain range. That control that controls how much fuzz is called attack, and we're just kicking the amp just a little bit in the front end, but almost at unity gain. But as you can hear, there's just a lot of control available, and it cleans up in a very nice linear way. Harmonically rich, but still has quite a bit of cut to it. Cleans up beautifully with the volume control. When we move to the 1.5, we add a noise gate to the circuit, and as you can see, it's dead silent. My volume is rolled all the way up, and this also has the effect of sort of changing some of the dynamics and really the tonal signature of the pedal. It is a spittier, harder edged pedal. A little bit tighter sounding. It has a very nice kind of percussive quality to it, and that zippery fuzz that just is nasty. And it cuts through in a different way than the Mark I does, with a little bit more of a high-end attack to it and a little bit more scooped out mids. This is the Tonebender Mark II, which adds more gain and, well, I'll let you hear it one more time. Has a very pronounced upper mid-range peak to it and a singing quality that, again, cuts through remarkably well even at high distortion levels, and enables you to get certain tones and certain overtones out of your guitar that are really magnificent. And it feeds back. I mean, we're playing at moderate volumes here, probably less than gigging volumes, but rather loud for my living room. But it feeds back in a very beautiful and controlled way. What else can I say? It sounds friggin' awesome. This is the Mark II Professional model. And it has somewhat crisper edges, maybe a little bit less of that kind of loose, really rich mid-range harmonics. The bottom holds together maybe a little bit tighter than with the Mark II. Let's switch back to the regular Mark II. A little bit tighter, maybe a little more solid in a mix, especially for rhythm playing. These two are kind of close. I'd say this one has just a slightly different harmonic content and dynamic response. Finally, the Mark III. Tonebenders, this pedal kind of blends the characteristics of the Mark II and Mark II Professional. It has the tightness and the solidity on the bottom of the Professional, and it also has a little bit more girth and sort of looseness and richness of the regular Mark II. And it adds a tone knob, which gives us some options in terms of how we want this thing to work in a mix. Roll all the way to treble. We get just a fabulous kind of lo-fi transistor radio sound that, while it could sound pretty grating on its own, can work just wonders in a recorded mix, for instance, where you don't want all that low end. It's going to be masking, or it will be masked by bass and kick parts and other things that might be happening in the mix, rhythm guitar parts. This kind of tone control can make a huge difference when you're trying to sit a heavily distorted, fuzzed out guitar part in a mix. If you can get that EQing on the front end, you can have a much easier time sitting it than if you have to deal with the EQing, in your DAW, or if you're tracking the tape, on your console. So I love the way we can go from that to just really girthy extra bottom. And it's not just in a recorded mix that this tone control will come in handy. It's also in a live situation. If you're playing in a trio, this bottom end here can allow you to fill up all kinds of space. If you're playing in a more crowded musical situation, just rolling off some of that bottom can help you reduce the mud in the mix. What can I say? Every single one of these pedals sounds phenomenal. You might have noticed that I kind of played somewhat differently with each of them. And that, to me, is actually one of the ways I like to kind of figure out what pedal is going to work for me or work in different situations. Is, the pedal sounds different and responds differently. It kind of leads you to do different things with your hands. And when you're doing some interesting things, or things that are interesting to you and you think would work for your music, that's probably a good indication that the pedal is one that will serve you well musically. I enjoyed playing through all of these. Toward this end, we have a little more openness and a little more maybe subtlety available in the dynamic response. Toward this end, we have just a lot more fuzz and a lot of harmonic overtones and other things happening. Is it kind of gear geeking out to excess to be messing around with perfect giant boxed replicas of Tonebenders? Absolutely. Do you need this level of historical reference or accuracy to make good music? Absolutely not. Is it fun? Hell yes. That's the point, okay? We don't mess around with these pedals because we need them to make good music. We don't. We really don't. We don't. We mess around with them because it's fun. It's fun. So, these are not that easy to find. Get a hold of the folks at Rock and Roll Vintage. They will hook you up with the right Tonebender for you, and only you know which one that is. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to turn them all on. Till next time.